Good morning. My name is Ashley Bodkins and I'm with the University of Maryland Extension Office in Garrett County. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about herb gardening. Herb gardening is one of my favorite things to do, and it's so easy because herbs are very forgiving. You can plant them in with almost any other plant, especially if we're talking about doing them with container gardening. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is choosing your container. Containers are really, really important and one of the most important choices that you can make whenever you're starting a container planting. So today we are going to be using a repurposed half bushel basket, which is of course food grade because it's used to measure fruits and vegetables. So whenever you are repurposing a container, it's a good idea to use either food grade material or something that isn't going to have anything that could potentially leach any toxins out into your herbs. So just think about that. Because this is a basket that has lots of holes in it, we will be adding a liner, a plastic liner, which we've done. It's very important to note that you do have to poke some holes in the bottom of the liner though, because you don't want your plants to have too much water in there, especially herbs. Herbs like to have dry feet for the most part, so you don't want to give them too much water or they're not going to thrive. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. Some other options whenever you might be picking your container would be like a window box. This is a little too small in my opinion, just because it doesn't have enough root space for the soil to be there for the roots to grow. So I wouldn't recommend this. It's a little too small, but if that's all you have space for, maybe in the house, you could definitely give it a try. So we're going to go ahead and put some potting soil, some soilless growing media into our container. Again, we have the plastic liner in there. And then we'll get started with putting our herbs in. It's good to always not mix the plant requirements. So most herbs, again, they like full sun, so you don't have to worry about that too much. The exceptions would be mint, anything in the mint family, or anything in the bee balm family. They can take a little more shade and be happy. So you wouldn't want to mix those with anything that needs full sun. So we have our container full with soil, and now it's time to add some herbs. So today we are going to be using the rule that we always want to use odd numbers when you do a container planter. So we have 3 parsley. This is curly leaf parsley. Parsley is sometimes considered a biennial, so it can come back for 2 seasons, but here in our area of Garrett County, we are just going to use it as an annual. We have 1 container of basil, and then we also have some dill. So dill sometimes is a hard plant to put in a planter or a container because it gets so tall. But I really like dill because it's a great attractant for butterflies. The swallowtail butterfly likes to lay its eggs on here. So even if you have to keep it cut short, that's okay. You can also harvest not only the seed head of the dill plant, but you can also harvest the foliage. It's not quite as flavorful, but it is pretty as a garnish or something like that. So because dill is our tallest plant, we are going to start with it, and we are designing this container so that it's one-sided. So we are going to loosen the root ball because it's pretty tight in that little cell pack container. Make sure you pick off any of the yellow leaves or anything that just doesn't look too good before you start. Again, loosen the roots, and because we're going to make this one-sided, we're going to put the dill across the back so it'll be up against the side of the house. I think we'll do 3 little hunks of dill. You can see the roots are very healthy. They're nice and white. So you can either just rip off the bottom little section. This seems a little bit cruel maybe, but it helps to encourage the roots to spread out. Okay, make sure you get rid of anything that doesn't look so good. We can also talk a little bit about harvesting. We'll do an example on the parsley. Stick this one in. Sometimes whenever they wilt down in the cell packs, they get a little bit yellow, the leaves do. So there's nothing wrong with them. They just don't look quite as pretty as they could. And make sure you loosen the roots on it. So we'll do 3 dill across the back. We're gonna... So when we talk about harvesting herbs, so one of the questions we get a lot, you can always harvest it all the way down to the soil and take it out. That's a good way to do it. Or you want to find the node. So the NODE, the node, is where the plant is actively growing and where it has the ability to put out new shoots. So on this example, you would want to either cut it here at this node or go up here to the top and cut it at this node. You don't want to cut it in the internode region because none of this can grow. So then you're going to end up with this stick that's just sitting there, which invites, the possibility for insect pests or diseases like fungal diseases to get into your plant. So never here, but always down here at the node. And again, all of these plants are annuals. So once they have a nice root system established in your container, when you transplant them, you can begin harvesting them in just a couple weeks. A good rule of thumb is to only harvest 1/3 of the plant at a time, up to 1/2 depending on how healthy the plant looks. Again, we're going to pick out anything that doesn't look so good. And this is curly leaf parsley. There's curly and flat leaf. It all tastes the same, just looks a little different. We're going to do one basil, one sweet basil here in the front. And we have one more parsley to stick in. We're going to put it here right behind the basil, I think. As we said at the beginning, it's always fun. You can always put some flowers to give you a little pop of color. So these are phlox, annual phlox. So we're going to just put one of those in here to give you a little pop of color. And then we also have this calendula, which is another herb plant that has edible flowers on it. It's in the marigold family. And it'll be a nice yellow pop of color. So, again, you can see those roots are nice and established on this one. We're going to put it right here in the center. So if you have specific questions about herbs that can grow in your area, don't forget to check out University of Maryland Extension. Or if you live in another state or another county, you can always just Google Cooperative Extension in your state to get the most up-to-date information from your land-grant university system. Thanks for joining us.